Damn guys, we've got an algebra test today. Did anyone study?
Nope, I can't make sense of algebra at all. Spent all last night playing Dota instead.
Am I crazy? We had a yard versus yard fight yesterday. Check out this black eye.
Damn, that's intense. So what do we do?
Let's just sit quietly in class. Valka probably doesn't remember anything anyway.
And where are those homework assignments I gave you? We can wrap up the lesson.
Yes. Valentina Petrovna, do you remember you promised us a test yesterday? I studied everything. I crammed the paragraphs yesterday evening. Are we going to take the test?
Today's video is about nerds, those weird types who live in their own little world, endlessly cramming all the school subjects, ruining the fun for their classmates, and sucking up to the teachers. In short, you get the idea. There's probably at least one of them in your class, or there was at some point. It's commonly believed that all nerds are introverts and total losers, but not every loser is a nerd, and not every nerd is a loser. To start with, nerds aren't losers anymore, if only because they actually have interest in life. And those interests are far from the worst thing. And most importantly, without a nerd's help, there's no way you're getting that coveted A, which means you won't be getting any perks from your parents. At school, I was exactly that kind of nerd, an absolute stereotype. Greasy hair, pimples, and a brown blazer. I only got my first cell phone around 7th grade, and, all that stuff. But even with all that, I had other interests too. I went swimming, did wrestling 2 whole months, so you'd better not mess with me. I could talk both with people like me and with the local alphas, and overall I never really felt like there was something wrong with me. A huge downside of the nerd life is the unrealistic expectations. It always seemed to me that people saw me as some kind of robot who would always get only B's and A's, and that this was just taken for granted. But any mistakes were blown out of proportion, to the point where my self-esteem would hit rock bottom.
So, the results of the test? Petrova got a 3, Ivanov got a 3, Erokin got a 2. Honestly, the topic is difficult, I think you'll catch up eventually. The grades aren't really the worst.
But what upset me most was the loser's media. How could he fall so far? A 4!
But, Valentina Petrovna,
you've completely stopped studying. Today it's a 4 in algebra, and tomorrow you'll probably start grabbing girls, huh?
But
Enough! Tomorrow. Don't come without your parents. As the story often goes, old Bill Gates was known to frequently remark something along the lines of this. Be nice to nerds, because chances are you'll eventually end up working for one. And I don't see a deputy chairman of Gazprom's chair under my own butt, nor do any of the guys I know who were obsessed with studying have one under theirs. The truth of life is that C students are often more successful than straight A students, because they learn to think for themselves, choose what truly interests them, instead of just memorizing what they're given, and they become independent earlier, while the latter at best can only become good performers of the tasks assigned to them. Speaking of a lack of independence, this flaw still haunts me to this day, and it used to be a real problem before. I was also behind on trends and didn't get my classmates' jokes. I tried alcohol quite late, and before that I honestly had no idea how it affected people. There's a funny story related to this. One time I was walking to school past the garages, and the alpha guy from our class was hanging out there with some older students. He called me over and offered to drink some yashka with them. Well, I thought, it's just a regular cocktail, what could happen? And I downed the whole can in one go. When I started to feel wobbly, I realized something was off. In class I almost threw up. But the most embarrassing part was still ahead. Out of nowhere, our homeroom teacher suddenly decided to keep me after class to discuss the English Olympiad. Media Loserov, why are you sitting so far away? Sit closer. What's wrong with you?
Oh, come on. I'm really fine here. I can hear you perfectly well.
What are you really going to do with him?
Just listen. Here are the tests. It would have been worth doing them in advance. What's that smell? What? Have you been drinking?
No, it was just the older guys, breathing on me. Thank goodness there was no one else in the classroom except the 2 of us. You have to admit, a drunk nerd is quite a sight. Since I had good grades, they often sat me next to those who were struggling academically. Wake up! Wake up! And that, damn it, was the main contradiction. First, you forbid us from being friends with those who do poorly in school, and then you go and seat me with them so I can help them catch up. Brilliant. Once, they sat me next to the most hopeless guy in our class. He was 2 years older than everyone else. And it's one thing when someone doesn't understand something but is interested in improving. But in this case, this idiot didn't care about anything at all. He just picked his nose, ate his boogers, and slept during lessons. After 2 weeks of sitting next to him, I started to think that I'd go downhill myself faster than I'd ever teach him anything. There was also a time when they sat me with the absolutely so-called cool guys. Really, right from the very start, they told me, listen, here's the deal, you let us copy your homework every single day, and we'll tell the homeroom teacher that absolutely everything's cool so you don't get in trouble. Got it? Another guy seemed to be aiming for something, but he was absolutely incredibly hot-tempered. Every time something didn't work out for him, he'd throw his notebook into the corner and go off in a truly hilarious rage.
Like, fuck your bullshit! Shit!
It was impossible to watch his efforts without laughing. But by then I was already risking getting caught in crossfire myself. They say that nerds aren't popular with girls. I, on the other hand, as soon as I set foot in school, would find myself surrounded by the top girls from our class in parallel classes, and I was always in their company, so I was definitely not lacking in female attention. The only thing was, to them I was nothing more than a walking book of ready-made homework answers. Some of them couldn't even be bothered to say thank you. But honestly, it was kinda funny to watch how sometimes they would mock me, but I just ignored it and put on a haughty face like, my time will come, you'll all come crawling to me for homework anyway. That's how it all went until 9th grade. But then, all of a sudden I just got completely fed up with everything, and from being a successful nerd, I turned into just a regular nerd who didn't care about anything and tried to skip school whenever possible. It was probably at that moment that something inside me snapped, and I realized that mindlessly cramming whatever they gave us and busting my ass just for a result on paper was completely pointless. And as is fitting for a guy who's seen the light, I left after 9th grade. So, the moral of the story is this. No, I'm not saying that being a straight A student is pointless. Maybe you're an awesome, well-rounded person, getting straight A's, playing sports, having tons of friends, and being popular with girls. Are you even from our planet? Anyway, do what you actually enjoy. Grinding away at the same thing, especially if you're already sick of it and it brings you no joy, just means you're stagnating. You can graduate from school with top honors and still end up living a purposeless life as an office drone. Or you could be a C student and become a successful entrepreneur. Set a goal and go after it. That's about it. Share in the comments how you're doing at school or university. Maybe you really are a cool guy who manages to succeed at everything. If that's the case, share a pinch of your talent with me, okay?